from his studios in New York, it's time for Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Here's your host, Dan Tortora.
Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. Hope you're all doing well this morning, and a very good morning to each and every single one of you. I can't believe it's Thursday already. How is it Thursday? It's Thursday of this week. We're in November. I'd love to say that we could do some No Shave November, but if I did No Shave November, I'd look like Moses. So I can't do No Shave November because I think I'd scare Jim Boeheim at all of the press conferences. So I'm not going to do that. It's not going to happen, but it does give me an excuse if I don't want to shave for like a week or something like that. But I can't do like as long as everybody else does because, you know, somebody doesn't shave and they're going to look somewhat possibly potentially normal where I'm not. That's not going to happen. I'm going to look like scary. So I'm not doing No Shave November, but I am enjoying November, and I hope you are too, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. Every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We get it done. We do it the right way here on the live streaming internet radio that you can hear anywhere in central and upstate New York, up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and in and out of this country. So thank you for tuning in. And if aliens exist and they have Wi-Fi, they could probably hear this show too this morning. So college football talk this morning, Papa Joe's picks. That's how we start off every Thursday show with Papa Joe. So we're very excited about that. PJ is going to be up in just a second. And in the second hour of the show, the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York, the place you should be watching every NFL game and every game in general. And just going there for the food, the atmosphere, and the great people. And also brought to you by the Pen and Trophy Center. If you need to have anything made from pens to desktop kind of materials and different things for your business, to plaques, to the Employee of the Month, to having something engraved for a wedding or an anniversary or birthday party, to doing what we do in our fantasy football trophies, our mini Lombardi and our toilet bowl last place trophy. We do it all at the Pen and Trophy Center. You can find it in East Syracuse at its new location, right across from BJ's. And you can also go to penandtrophy.com. They're on 119 East 2nd Street in East Syracuse. So that's coming up in the second hour with Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. But before we get there, we must go here, and that is with Papa Joe. And so, Papa Joe, how are we doing this morning?
Good morning, Daniel. Everything's fine. How's it going up there?
Going very well. And dare I say it that the sun is out. So maybe it's 47, but it's sunny.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry. It'll get down to 30 in a heartbeat.
Yeah, apparently. So let me see right here. I'm gonna do this morning. So it is 42 in Syracuse, and here's the fun thing. So Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the forecast for each of those has a snowflake in it. So we could see snow this Saturday, which would be wonderful because I have a game that I have to do outside. But it's supposed to get no warmer than 44 degrees for the next 7 days.
Better bundle up, bro.
That's the beauty of being able to work for yourself. I don't know if I have any desire to go outside. So maybe I don't. Maybe I go to Chick-fil-A through an underground tunnel that I dig for myself. So it'll be very exciting and very fun. Papa Joe, I get to do a show every single month with Chick-fil-A Cicero, and I partnered with them, and I love working with Chick-fil-A. You and I are big Chick-fil-A fans. So before we get to college football talk, what is your go-to Chick-fil-A meal?
Well, I usually get 2 sandwiches, and I don't get any French fries because I steal them from Mary. She gets the meal, and I get 2 sandwiches with lemonade.
So you get the 2 sandwiches with the lemonade. Are you using any sauce, or is it just totally bland?
No, totally bland. I love the way they do it. I love their formula. It's delicious. The meat is tender. I love it. I love it.
That coming from Papa Joe, regular chicken sandwich at Chick-fil-A and stealing fries from your significant other, which
That's right.
Which normally that's like a no-no. That's a taboo Italian thing to do. I think if you steal from another, if you steal from an Italian's plate, they have every right to stab your hand with a fork. So you kind of, I mean, you've been okay though. Mary hasn't forked your hand yet, has she?
No, not really. But going back to the old days, when the Hammurabi Code was instilled, eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, or an arm for an arm. If you were caught stealing, you got your hands chopped off.
So hopefully that won't happen to you the next time you go to
No,
Chick-fil-A.
you won't do that.
Papa Joe with us this morning. Speaking about college football, we got a lot to get into. The second week of the college football playoff rankings are out. A lot of things going on with Syracuse, Notre Dame in the mix here. The Big Ten getting some respect. So a lot of different topics. I'm going to open the floor to you though. What is kind of maybe fresh and at the forefront of your mind right now? Is there a topic that's really been weighing on you or that you've been thinking about this week?
Not really. I looked at the results last week and watched a few of the games. I was pretty impressed with the way Michigan dispatched Penn State rather easily. So I'm thinking to myself that probably the winner of Ohio State-Michigan is probably going to be granted a waiver into the Final Four. So, you got Alabama and Clemson for sure, maybe Michigan, maybe Ohio State, the winner of that game. And then there's always the debate about whether Notre Dame should even be considered. I don't, but maybe you do. I look at other teams like Oklahoma's playing real hard and fast, but they don't have much of a defense. The same with Washington State, where Coach Leach runs up and down the field over there. So, you're talking about defense, offense, it's running up the score, whatever, Those teams are going to be exciting to watch in the next couple of weeks, but I think we're pretty well certain that Alabama, Clemson, either Ohio State and Michigan, and then also ran probably maybe Notre Dame or maybe someone else. I look for Notre Dame to have a tough fight with Florida State this weekend. I know I've been on Florida State's bandwagon for a while, even though I'm a Gator. I don't understand the way they're playing. I don't get it. I don't get what the coach is doing down there. They are certainly a much better team than what they've shown. And if they go up to Notre Dame and get blown out, Coach Taggart and his boys could be in for a real long summertime.
And, we look at kind of going off of what you said and where things are at right now. Michigan snuck into the top 4. They were 5, and they went into number 4. Agree or disagree with the situation that occurred where if we go back and we look at the rankings for the college football playoff the first week, if we go back and we look at that, it'll show that LSU was 3rd. So Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Notre Dame 4, and LSU was 3. LSU played Alabama, the number 1 team in the nation, for forever. They stay up there. They don't get moved out of there. So LSU loses to Alabama, and they go from 3rd in the college football playoff rankings. They drop them from 3rd to 7th. Agree or disagree that LSU should have dropped 4 spots after losing to the best team in the nation?
No, I think they needed to drop more than that. It's quite evident that even Florida beating a weak, as I say, weaker Florida team beat LSU at the Swamp. Certainly, the beating that Alabama gave them certainly should reflect that Georgia should drop much lower than that. I don't get it. They got two losses. They're not going to go anywhere. They're probably going to get a big bowl bid, but they don't deserve to be in the top 10 or that. Alabama really put it to them. That was a good game to watch.
And doing what? So you think LSU should drop a little bit farther? There's been some respect here. Speaking with Papa Joe in College Football Talk this morning, and every Thursday morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we have Papa J to start off the show. Michigan and Ohio State getting some love. Ohio State is number 10 in the college football playoff rankings. Michigan is number 4. Michigan lost their first game at Notre Dame 24-17. They have not lost since. They are on an 8-game winning streak. They play at Rutgers, who is an atrocious program in the Big Ten. I think people still don't even know they're in the Big Ten because they've never been relevant there. And then they play Indiana, and Indiana's got my guy Stevie Scott from CBA. Shout out to him. So they're playing 2 unranked teams they're supposed to handle, and then they're at Ohio State. Where do you see things shaking out with Michigan? I would anticipate, and this is from the outside looking in, obviously, and I got to play every week, but let's say Rutgers, Indiana, so now the team is 10-1, and they go and they play at Ohio State. If Michigan wins, if Michigan goes 11-1 before the Big Ten championship game, is it a no-brainer for you that they're going to be in the college football playoff if they win out for the regular season and they defeat? I mean, obviously, if they lose to Rutgers or Indiana, they got to drop from like 4 to 11, substantially. But if they beat them both and then they beat Ohio State, is there any question that Michigan would be in the top 4?
That's marginal. Right now, I think they do. I don't know who they would play in the Big Ten championship, but they certainly proved to me after their loss to Notre Dame at the beginning of the year that Coach Harbaugh is another one of these coaches that uses psychology to the best. He knows how to get the best out of his players. He knows how to talk to them, how not to talk to them, slap them upside the head or give them a pat on the butt. He knows what he's doing, and a lot of his team success is due to the way Coach Harbaugh coaches. So right now, I would say I would let him in. Certainly a great effort on Michigan's part, and we don't get to see Michigan too much down here, but I read a lot about it. If I had to choose between Michigan and Ohio State, I think I would probably choose Michigan right now.
Ohio State, that's the other side of the coin and the other piece of this thing. If Ohio State, if we look at the rest of Ohio State's schedule, so Ohio State is at Michigan State, who's ranked, at Maryland, and then they play Michigan at home. So they got a little bit of tougher road here. If they win out, they would be, in this scenario, 11-1. So Ohio State beats Michigan, let's say, and let's say so Michigan's 10-1, and they go to Ohio, and Ohio State defeats them, so they go 11-1, and Michigan goes 10-2. Do you at that point say, okay, Ohio State should be in now because they were in the conversation and they lost one game to Purdue and they lost by a lot. They lost at Purdue 49-20. Purdue is unranked. I said Purdue was one of those danger games, and obviously they were. So if they go 11-1, do they take Michigan's spot in the top 4?
Probably not. I think Ohio State has just been playing on a wing and a prayer this year. If it wasn't for their quarterback, they'd lost a few other games. Certainly the loss to Purdue was a major setback for them. No, I don't look for Ohio State to be anywhere near the conversation that Michigan is right now. Michigan is playing the best in the Big Ten right now.
So the Big Ten right now, if it happened today, the Big Ten championship would be Michigan versus Northwestern. Michigan, the leader of the East, and Northwestern, the leader of the West. If things flipped and it was Ohio State, we're looking at Ohio State, potentially Wisconsin in the mix, or Ohio State, Northwestern. The winner of the Big – so let's say this. So the winner of the Big Ten championship, is that an automatic? Because you put Michigan above Ohio State. Let's say Ohio State plays in the Big Ten championship, Michigan does not, and they win it. At that point, is it a done deal for Ohio State?
No, I don't think so either. I don't even know anything about Northwestern, but I know that the committee is trying to get a Big Ten team in there, but you certainly can't consider a team with 2 losses to be part of this equation. So Ohio State's going to have to show me a lot more than what they have in the past 3 or 4 weeks. I still say Michigan is heading shoulders above the breast. We're certainly going to find out in a couple of weeks when they go down to Ohio State. But I like Michigan in this scenario with the Big Ten. But keep in mind that even though you got to play conference championships and this and that and this and that, you're not going to be considered to be in the top 4 if you have 2 losses. So somewhere along the line, something's going to have to shake down. And if a Big Ten team is going to be in the top 4, then it's going to be a Big Ten team with only 1 loss.
And so we have a 1-loss Ohio State and a 1-loss Michigan at this time, and they will, if they continue to win, they will find each other at the end of the regular season, and that'll probably, just like the Big Ten has recently here, that'll, that last week, that last game will decide who's going to the Big Ten championship. We'll move from there. I agree with you that I feel that the committee is trying to get the Big Ten into the college football playoff. Agree or disagree that the Big Ten is deserving of that, because it seems like the Big 12, they're not giving a lot of respect to. The Pac-12, maybe a little bit, but it seems like the Big Ten is really a conference that the College Football Playoff Committee wants to give a spot to in the college football playoff this year. Would you agree or disagree with that?
No, I disagree with that. Well, I do sort of, and I don't sort of. The committee, is looking at dollars and cents here. It's all it is, TV ratings and everything. If they can get a Big Ten team in the Final Four without ruffling too many feathers, they're going to probably try to do that. But you bring up the other conferences, and you got some really good football teams out there with only 1 loss that probably could go through their league championships with only 1 loss. Why shouldn't they be considered also? So, it's. I don't know. The committee is so political that it's ridiculous sometimes the way they can surmise things. They are looking big time to try to get a Big Ten team in there, but I think they need to look outside the box too with some other 1-loss teams.
So we look outside the box here. We're speaking here with Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of Papa Joe's Picks, college football talk, and some of these other teams. Let's go to, because I'll get to the SEC in a second, but let's go to the Big 12. And I know that my buddy Jordan, who will be with me and is with me every Friday for Friday Morning Live, our live video and audio segment that you can watch on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, and of course listen to, as you do every Monday through Friday, on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. So he likes the Big 12, and that's always a conversation that he brings up. So Oklahoma and West Virginia are both in the top 10 in the college football playoff rankings. They both have 1 loss. Oklahoma's 8-1. West Virginia is 7-1. So what do you think about, let's go to Oklahoma first. So Oklahoma defeated FAU, UCLA, Iowa State, all unranked. Army, Baylor, all unranked. Lost to Texas, which was at home, 19th ranked in the country at the time. Defeated TCU at TCU, Kansas State, and at Texas Tech. Oklahoma does not have a single game win this season over a top 25 ranked team. They will not play another top 25 ranked team until the last week of the season at West Virginia. So, thoughts on this scenario? Has Oklahoma done enough? Because they're ranked 6th right now, but they lost to the only ranked team that they played, and they'll only play one more ranked team, which is West Virginia. So thoughts on Oklahoma and if they would deserve a spot, knowing that their schedule has not been against the top 25?
Well, Oklahoma is in a unique situation where they have one of the best athletes in the country playing football for them, and that's Kyler Murray. So with that being said, he's exciting to watch, and if he can put up 400 yards a game, I'm looking at the committee to say, well, let's consider Oklahoma, because even though they have a weaker schedule, they got a dynamic football player, and people are going to turn in and watch it. So the only reason that they're going to be considered is because of the way Kyler Murray is playing. Another quarterback in that situation, they probably barely would be a 500 team. So they're looking strong. They should be considered despite their record because of their quarterback.
So you look at the quarterback side of things, and, with Oklahoma, again, with the Big 12, and this is my issue with the Big 12, they don't play defense. And they just defeated Texas Tech 51-46. So you talk about quarterback play and, the connection that, like Kyler Murray, obviously, with Oklahoma. So we look at the other side of things, West Virginia. And West Virginia has Will Grier, and West Virginia has somebody who, people say Heisman when they talk about Will Grier. Now, West Virginia is 7-1. They had a game canceled against NC State due to a hurricane. So they defeat Tennessee. They defeat, in their second game of the season, Youngstown State Penguins, which we all know is a very difficult and formidable foe. I'm sorry.
That's a cupcake, Daniel.
I know. Kansas State, and then they defeat Texas Tech. When Texas Tech was ranked in the top 25, barely just inside of it. And they defeated Kansas. They lost to Iowa State, who Oklahoma defeated. They defeated Baylor, but then they defeated Texas. So here's my confusion. Oklahoma has one loss. West Virginia has one loss. Oklahoma lost to Texas. West Virginia beat Texas. Oklahoma beat Iowa State. West Virginia lost to Iowa State. So the committee thinks, all right, Oklahoma, you lost to Texas, but you beat Iowa State, so that's better than the reverse of that West Virginia did. What do you think about that? Should West Virginia be higher than Oklahoma, or does it make sense that they said, okay, Oklahoma, you lost to Texas, who's pretty good, but you beat Iowa State, who's not that great, so let's keep you where we are. Do you think they should switch spots or no?
Probably not. But, it boggles the mind how the committee thinks. They don't use logic or anything like that. Again, they're looking for dollars and cents. The Will Grier story is a fascinating story. Coming up, being signed by Florida, of course, then having a problem with a positive drug test on some type of supplemental vitamin he was taking. He's a great story. He's an older man. I think he's 23 by now, 22, 23. He's married, got a child. So he's matured an awful lot, and he's carrying West Virginia on his back. West Virginia, to me, is a better story than Oklahoma right now. The West Virginia-Texas game, man, what a game that was. My goodness. He's everything. He's everything that he's advertised to be, just like Kyler Murray is. It's a very difficult situation because both teams have Heisman Trophy candidates running their teams. It's very difficult to fit. Right now, I would say West Virginia has a little bit of an edge over Oklahoma. Neither team can play defense that well, that's for sure. But I think West Virginia plays a little bit better defense than Oklahoma does right now. So I give the edge to West Virginia.
So let me throw this at you here with Papa Joe's picks inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. In the first hour of every Thursday broadcast, we like to have Papa J on the show and having some fun. Papa J's down in Florida. So before I say what I'm about to say, dare I ask this, but people in central and upstate New York can live vicariously through you. What is the weather like right now? I know I'm going to be mad, and I get that I'm going to be mad, but I have to ask. So what's the weather like down in Florida right now?
81 degrees and partly cloudy.
That is double. It's pretty much double Syracuse right now. That is so if I'm down there right now, I'm having some breakfast. I'm having Cinnamon Toast Crunch with some fresh fruit on top, and then I'm going swimming in the pool right now.
That's correct. The pool water is at a nice balmy 82 degrees, which is still good enough for swimming. You're going to run around in your shorts and your flip-flops and not worry about anything, Daniel.
Papa Joe, I woke up this morning with a smile on my face, and now I'm a little bit sad. I'm a little bit sad this morning. But so down in Florida, before we get back to a point that I have here, when you brought up the quarterbacks and whatnot, you're Gators. You're a Florida Gator, and Syracuse fans, they love the orange and blue. The Gators are orange and blue as well, and Florida is ranked 15th in the college football playoff rankings. They have 3 losses. They've done some good things this year. They started off the season by beating Charleston Southern. Then they went on from there. They lost to Kentucky, who turned out to be a pretty good team inside the SEC, and in general, they defeated Colorado State, at Tennessee, at Mississippi State with Dan Mullen's return to his old team. They defeated LSU, and LSU is ranked 5th in the nation. They dropped them to 12. They defeated Vanderbilt on the road, but they've lost in back-to-back weeks by almost exactly the same score, ironically. They lost to Georgia, who's ranked 7th in the country at the time, 36-17, and then lost to unranked Missouri, 38-17. So do you think the Gators are right now? And did you ever think that they had a shot at having maybe like a one-loss season, or is this kind of where you anticipated that they'd be? They are bowl eligible, but in order to get a good bowl game, they're going to have to obviously put some work in these last 3 weeks.
No, they don't deserve to be it. Actually, they deserve to be lower than what they are. A couple of weeks ago, I told you that Florida just doesn't match up well with Georgia. Georgia controlled the line of scrimmage like Kentucky did against Florida. Florida's quarterbacking situation is really, really shaky. Felipe Franks was a five-star athlete coming out of college or high school, but it hasn't really progressed that much. Mullen is kind of disappointed that he hasn't brought Franks along more. Franks can't carry a team the way Greer and Murray can for these other teams that we talked about. He just doesn't have the talent, or maybe he's lacking some things in his brain there. But they have another big, strong arm quarterback, Kyle Trask, that took over for Franks last week in the Missouri game. And unfortunately, yesterday he got injured with a non-contact injury. Probably took a bad step, maybe twisted his knee a little bit. I don't have any more information on that. So Coach Mullen really doesn't have a quarterback wonder anymore. If Kyle Trask is hurt, he's got to go with Franks. They have a freshman on their roster, but you don't throw a freshman into the mix of the SEC unless you're someone like Trevor Lawrence from Clemson, who's in the ACC. But Florida has serious problems, and they're not going to go anywhere. And they were ranked too high to begin with after being an LSU, even though it was a good win. They were just flat as can be against Missouri at home. Terrible loss, demoralizing loss. Mullen really has to reach back, try to get these kids back up and pull them through, because they're playing South Carolina, who certainly is no cupcake. Going to be a tough game. Florida is in for a tough rest of the year. And even though they got to play South Carolina, they got FSU coming up, which is always a rivalry. And, if they're 7-4 or 6-5 or 7-4, I guess that's a good season right now. Other than that, I don't have much more to say about them. I think they're ranked a little bit higher than where they deserve. I think they're 13th or something, a three-loss team. No, I don't agree with that. I hate to say it, but my Gators need to be a little bit lower than that.
That coming from Papa Joe inside of the College Football Talk this morning. Papa Joe's picks on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You're listening on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage and directly on the live stream, mixlr.com/WakeUpCallDT. We're here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Papa Joe, to look at the quarterbacks, I want to get back to, you had made a statement about, it's money, it's dollars when you're trying to figure out these teams, and maybe, they're all close in the grand scheme of things. I'm going to ask you this question. Shea Patterson, who's Michigan, Dwayne Haskins Jr., Ohio State, Kyler Murray, Oklahoma, Will Grier, West Virginia. If you could only have one of them in the college football playoff, Shea Patterson, Dwayne Haskins, Kyler Murray, or Will Grier, who would you want to watch in that of those four quarterbacks this year?
Oh, Kyler Murray, hands down. Kid's fantastic, fabulous. He reminds me of Russell Wilson. Got a great arm. Actually, he reminds me a lot about Baker Mayfield. He's not a very big guy. He's a wonderful athlete. He can score from anywhere on the field. He's got an arm. He can scramble. He can run. He can do anything. He reminds me, and really, again, to say it again, he reminds me a lot of Mayfield. And Mayfield is going to be fine in the pros. I'm not too worried about that. Kyler Murray, though, is chosen a different path. He wants to play baseball, so you know what kind of athlete he is. If you're 3 touchdowns behind with Oklahoma and you got Kyler Murray on your team, you still got a chance to win the game. He's a very electric player. He's got a very good chance of winning the Heisman Trophy. So, with that being said, I really like Kyler Murray more than the other ones you mentioned.
Georgia, another team in the grand scheme of things here. Georgia is 5th. They are just outside of the college football playoff top 4. You got to be in the top 4 to play inside the college football playoff. They have Auburn at home, who is now ranked. They weren't ranked for a while. Auburn is back at 24. Then they play UMass. Then they play Georgia Tech. All of those games are at home. Georgia has this beautiful, lucked-out schedule that they played the last 3 weeks of the regular season at home. Only one of those teams is ranked, and they just got ranked in Auburn. And then, it's decided that they will have the SEC championship game going up against Alabama. So thoughts on this, because it seems like Georgia is in a prime position they're home for 3 straight games. They went out. They're 11-1 before the SEC championship game. Do they bump out Michigan or bump out Ohio State or bump out an Oklahoma or West Virginia if they go 11-1? Because it seems like they're kind of set up to have a surge at the end of the season, and everybody would love to have 3 home games to round out the regular season. So what do you think about the Georgia Bulldogs?
They're tough. When they went up to Kentucky and pushed those guys around, remember that Florida lost a game at Kentucky, and Kentucky just dominated both lines of scrimmage. And Georgia did the same thing to Kentucky that Kentucky did to Florida and that Georgia did to Florida. So, Georgia's tough. They're a mean football team, grind it out, big, tough, strong guys, great coach. But so they go undefeated at the 3 teams that you mentioned, and they're 11-1, and then they got to play Alabama for the SEC championship. Now, in this grand scheme of things, if Georgia beats Alabama, now you're talking about 2 strong SEC teams with only 1 loss, and both of them probably will be in the Final Four. Of course, if Alabama beats Georgia, Georgia has 2 losses, and they should not be considered to be part of the 4. But there's always a scenario, that Georgia could beat Alabama, and both teams would be in the Final Four just like last year.
So we sit where we sit right now. Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Notre Dame 3, Michigan 4 at the moment. Georgia's right outside of that. And then there's Oklahoma, LSU, Washington State, West Virginia, Ohio State. The only other team I haven't mentioned in the top 10, and it's because seriously, it's no offense to this team whatsoever. I'm not wowed by any stretch of the imagination of the Pac-12 and when it comes to the college football playoff. What do you think about the fact that it almost seems like the committee feels like they need to have a Pac-12 team? They have an SEC. Okay, this is the top 10 how it is right now. It's SEC, ACC, Independent in Notre Dame, Big 10, SEC again, Big 12, and then SEC again, Pac-12, so you get all your Power 5, your Autonomous 5 in there. And then you have West Virginia's Big 12, and then Ohio State's Big 10. What do you think about the Washington State factor? Do you think that the committee is showing too much love to the Pac-12? Do they need to have one in there? They defeated Wyoming, and then from there they took down San Jose State. They beat Eastern Washington, who ironically Syracuse just beat on the basketball court. Mind you, they lost to USC, who is unranked. Then they defeated Utah at Oregon State, Oregon, who is ranked, Stanford, who is ranked. Cal, they just defeated 19-13. I don't see anything about Washington State that makes me think college football playoff. But what do you think about the fact that they're in the top 10?
They're weak, but Coach Leach is an offensive mastermind, and he's the kind of guy that with the rest of these teams, they can run up and down the field and score 45 and 50 points in a heartbeat. They stumbled up last week and just barely won. But again, you have to look at the economic visibility here of the scenario that we're talking about. Is that if you want a West Coast team to play in the Final Four, you're going to pull in all those fans from the West Coast that are going to watch these games, and the TV networks are going to go crazy, and the advertising dollars are going to go nuts. So they're in there because they're a good team. Whether they'll be considered for the top 4, probably marginally not. But this committee, they don't think logically all the time. They're thinking dollars and cents. Believe me, if they could fit Washington State into the Final Four and pull in the West Coast dollars, they'll do it.
Yeah, that the thing is, ultimately it should be about the teams. It should be about what they're doing, how they're doing it, how do they look up against everybody else. But like you said, people look at the money side of things and see, is it going to be better for us to put this team in instead of that team? Can we sell more tickets? Can we take care of this, that, and the other? So that is something that comes up in the grand scheme of things. Before we talk about Syracuse football, because we got to do that, Papa Joe here in College Football Talk this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I didn't mention this, and I feel like I have to. You have a really tough game as a Florida Gator fan in the second to last week of the season. Florida State's had this game in recent history, too. You have to play Idaho.
Oh, yeah, that's another cupcake, Dan. What can I tell you? So if they're 7-4 or 8-3, it's because of the cupcakes. It's not because they played well against good teams. I don't even know where Idaho is. It can't be in Boise if it's got Boise State. I don't even know what their nickname is. So whatever. They're probably getting $1 million to come over here to play.
Well, and that's the thing that's crazy about it is they get paid for that. They're called the Idaho Vandals, and the Idaho Vandals play in the Big Sky Conference. So that is the team that you're going up against. This now, Idaho, obviously this is a few years back, but they went to play at Florida State in Tallahassee, second to last game of the season, because the really good teams out there, or the teams that have respect, they get to schedule their second to last game of the season to make a push and to really show what they're capable of. They just beat the hell out of a team 60-7 or 70-7 or something like that. So Idaho is that team, and now they'll be playing Florida. And, if I'm Idaho, yeah, you get money, that's great. But I don't know if I would want to be the ragdoll of college football. I don't know if you're scheduling, and like with Syracuse, that's kind of like how Notre Dame feels is, in the past, and then this year, it's the second to last game of the season. So Syracuse has been treated like that ragdoll. Like, hey, give us Syracuse the second to last game of the season so we can make a push, and show the committee something really, really good right before we play maybe, a rivalry game and then play in our championship. So what do you think about that? Because Florida's on the right side of it, but there's teams like Idaho that they get paid to play these games. So even if they lose, they get $800,000 or $1 million, $3 million, whatever it may be. What do you think about those games? Do you like or dislike so late in the season having a cupcake that you just annihilate with not much effort at all? What do you think about that scenario?
There's no place for it in college scheduling. It's going to cost Florida a lot of money to bring Idaho over here to play. Let's put it this way. The Swamp, which holds over 90,000 people, will not be at full staff for that one. They're not going to. I wouldn't be surprised if there's 80% of the 93,000 are going to go. It's too many. The kids are playing too many games this time of year as it is. They're still students. They still have to go to class. Now, what good is it to bring the student athletes from Idaho, who got to travel 2 time zones in a charter plane? I don't even know if they have a charter plane on Idaho.
They probably bus it or they horse and buggy it there.
Right. So, you're taking kids away from the classroom and come all the way across the country to get your behind beat. Then they got to turn around and go all the way back because they're whipped and they're tired, and they miss out maybe on some classes. So I don't agree with the cupcakes. It's the same with the college basketball, the same way. But if Alabama is 14-1 or 13-1 and played a couple of cupcakes, no one cares. But if Florida does played a couple of cupcakes and is 7-3, it sort of magnifies things a little bit more. I don't think there's a place for it. I commend the smaller schools for scheduling these guys because they can make money. That's what it is. It's money.
Yeah, well, it is. It's those dollars. And the thing for Syracuse last year is that they brought in, this is nuts, they brought in, and I think they paid $800,000 to Middle Tennessee. And they go, oh, we're going to play Middle Tennessee, second week of the season. They're not going to beat us. Then they ended up having to hand a check to a team that came into their stadium and beat them. And that is the ultimate slap in the face to say, okay, we're going to give you $800,000 and you just embarrassed us at home. So the scenario, it works, except for when it doesn't. And for me, how do you do that? And I guess I'm trying to think of an analogy that would make sense in that respect. Almost like, okay, let's say there's a wing eating, or let's say there's a best wing contest in Syracuse, New York. And so you're, Bob's restaurant, and then there's Sally's restaurant. And Bob's restaurant says to Sally, we need one more team to be in this thing. And so we'll give you $10,000 to be a part of this because we just had somebody drop out last minute. We have to have 35 teams. And then Sally ends up winning. So you have to pay Sally $10,000 after she just made you look like a fool. That's a horrible thing to have to do, Papa Joe. You roll the dice and 99.9% of the time you win, but the time that you don't, like Syracuse, can you imagine after the game cutting a check and handing it to Middle Tennessee after they just walloped you in front of your fans?
That's right. That's embarrassing. You're right. I remember, was it a couple years ago that was at Appalachian State beat Michigan or something like that? One of those was supposed to be a cupcake game, but we know that Appalachian State's a better football team than that. There's not a lot of cupcakes that are going to win. Was it Troy last year that beat LSU or the year before? So, these mid-level teams are not as weak as you think they are. If you're looking for a cupcake, you got to go a lot lower than that.
That coming from Papa Joe inside of college football talk in the first hour today of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're proud that you're listening in. You can find us on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, Twitter at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. Papa Joe, before I let you go, we have two things that we have to take care of. That's talking about Syracuse, and then moving forward from there, talking about Syracuse and then getting into some of our picks for this week inside of college football. So Syracuse is 7-2. Syracuse is ranked, and this is my grandfather. When everybody talks about signs, my grandfather, Tommy, love you, Pop, in heaven, his favorite number was 13. He took a negative and turned it into a positive. The world's largest painter knew how to get it done. And so he loves number 13. And Syracuse hasn't been ranked, in multiple polls and whatnot in 17 years. So Syracuse is 13th in the college football playoff rankings, 13th in the AP, 13th in the coaches poll. So if that is not my grandfather, I don't know what is. What do you think about the fact that Syracuse is just outside of the top 10 in the college football playoff, the AP, and the coaches poll? They are sitting in a place right now where they rose like 9 spots in one poll last week. They rose 9 spots in the AP from last week to this week, and then 11 spots in the coaches poll. They rose 6 spots in the college football playoff rankings. The committees of all of these, the media, the coaches, and the college football playoff committee, they all like Syracuse right now. What do you think about the fact of them being ranked 13th in every major poll?
I think it's wonderful. It's great to be an Orangeman. Several weeks ago when we talked about this, when they almost beat Clemson, I thought they should have been ranked because they lost to Clemson. That's how good I thought they were. And, of course, whipping up on Florida State was easy. They deserve where they are. They got a really strong, super-arm quarterback. Now, sometimes he doesn't make the best decisions, but he's probably going to be a late first-round, second-round pick. Big, tall, strong guy. And, frankly, they'll go as far as Dungy can take them. And I don't look for them to slip up the rest of the year. I think they're deserved of their ranking, and I think that they're going to wind up with a major bowl.
And the better they do, the more sure that the bowl game will be in the South. So there's a lot to be had down in the southern area that you could send me to in December or January would be beautiful. And even though I know it's not a major bowl, I am not opposed to going to Honolulu in December.
Right. Well, you can come down to the old Tangerine Bowl. I don't know what they call that game now, but it used to be the Tangerine Bowl in Orlando, so that'd be all right.
Yeah, there's some great bowls that are going on and some great opportunities down there. Syracuse 7-2. They have 3 games left. They will be facing off against Louisville, and I said that Louisville would have a struggling season without Lamar Jackson.
Gosh, did Clemson just whip up on them? Boy, that was tough to watch. But I had to watch it because it was fun watching Clemson run up and down the field.
And can we say this about Clemson? Since they almost lost to Syracuse 27-23 at home, they must have been so pissed And so everybody around the country's got to be mad at Syracuse right now. They must have been so pissed that they almost lost that game, because this is what they've done in the last 4 weeks. At Wake Forest, 63-3. NC State, 41-7. Florida State, 59-10. Louisville, 77-16. They have literally, legitimate, without question, after almost losing to Syracuse, they have played angry, they have played pissed, and every team in their wake is getting, every single ship is flipping over right now. What do you think about that? That it almost looks like after they had that tight one with Syracuse, they just had to take it out on everybody else.
Well, there's two reasons. One is that Syracuse is a better football team than they thought they were, that Clemson thought they were. And we've talked about this the last couple of weeks, is I don't care who they put 3 and 4. It's going to be Alabama and Clemson in the national championship game. They can flip-flop 3 and 4 around, West Coast, East Coast, Central, Big Ten, whatever, It's still going to be Clemson and Alabama in a championship game. Frankly, I can't wait to see a game like that. I just hope it comes to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hopefully, we're looking at something, really special for some of these teams out there. But obviously for Syracuse, doing what they do, it's the final game in the Carrier Dome for guys like Eric Dungy and Antoine Cordy. And, a lot of these guys that I covered for a long time that I have a lot of respect for and a lot of care for, Dante Strickland. So it's going to be, probably the greatest goodbye, because the team is 7-2, and these seniors went through having Scott Schaefer's coaching staff, losing them. They recruited them in. Then they were losing. They were 4-8. Then they were 4-8. Then they were 4-8. So this senior class can put themselves up with any senior class out there that went through the trenches and went through hell, and now they get to reap the benefits of it. They will have a winning season for the first time since 2013, but none of the guys, not necessarily were there for that. So what do you think about the Eric Dungies of the world that get in front of the fans one more time this season in Syracuse, New York, and just celebrate the fact that it's been a long time coming, but they say nice guys finish last, and I go with a different route, and I've actually said this to somebody recently. Nice guys don't finish last. Nice guys finish first. It's just a longer race. And if that makes any sense, Syracuse would make sense in that analogy.
I agree with it. It's going to be a great day for the seniors. They certainly deserve it, as you said. I don't look for them to slip up. I think that Babers is going to keep his team sharp, and we've talked about this before too. Syracuse's record could very easily be 10-2 or 11-2 by the end of the year, and they could lose their coach. So Coach Babers has got a lot to do. He's got a lot to keep his kids up, but he's got a good veteran team with a strong quarterback, and I look for them to carry forward.
Absolutely, and absolutely. So, with that being said, Syracuse got a game against Louisville. I said they'd struggle this year without Lamar Jackson in a rebuilding year. They didn't struggle. They have been horrid, just absolutely. And you'll hear from Bobby Petrino and Dino Babers on tomorrow's show in the segment Significant Soundbites. You'll hear from Babers and Petrino, and Petrino's the guy that keeps getting brought up on the hot seat when he came back to Louisville, and they're doing well. That's the thing about college football, though, is that you have one season that you anticipate it's going to be a rebuilding year. You anticipate it's going to be tough. You anticipate it's going to be tumultuous, yet they still want to fire you. And what do you think about that? Bobby Petrino at Louisville, all this conversation of, yeah, he's going to get fired. Who cares? Do you agree or disagree with that notion that Bobby Petrino would be out in Louisville, knowing that this was supposed to be a rebuilding year? This is supposed to be a time where the team was going to struggle. I thought they'd win 5 or 6 games. They've done worse than that. But since coming back to Louisville, Bobby Petrino's been 9-4, 8-5, 9-4, 8-5. So do you fire him after a year where they're not going to have a winning season?
No. Bobby Petrino was the first-class offensive coach. It goes to show you how far a college quarterback can carry a team. You mentioned Lamar Jackson. Well, Lamar Jackson carried Louisville for 2 years. Now he's not there. And Petrino, I don't know who he's got coming up in the pipeline, but it shows you that you need a top-flight quarterback to win in big-time college football. All the teams that we talk about today, most of them have a top-flight quarterback that are going to carry him. And Petrino needs to find that guy if he's not already on the roster. Maybe he's got someone coming up, but he needs to sign one. So Petrino will be all right. You know, he'll get his offensive mind going again with a better team and a good quarterback. So, you know, he's all right.
That coming from Papa Joe. We got to make our picks, Papa Joe, as we head out of our morning segment on Thursday mornings about college football. So let's jump into some of these games that we have on the docket. Speaking here with Papa J this morning, and for the now I'm excited about this week, and obviously as we get closer and closer to what's going down, it's going to be fun. Syracuse has Friday Night Lights. Louisville at Syracuse. ESPN2, it's going to be on at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be pre-gaming. Rob Drummond, Syracuse Orange football alum, and one of my closest friends, one of the best people that I know. Rob and I will be at the Press Room Pub on 220 Herald Place in historic Herald Square in Syracuse, New York. You come pre-game with us at 5 o'clock, have some fun, get some drinks, grab some food, be around. I mean, last time we were there, we had over 200 people there. Insane, packed wall to wall. I could barely get to where we had to get to set up the show. And so we're excited and looking forward to that happening again, if not bigger, at the Press Room Pub. So we'll see you on Friday. They're also doing a pig roast that day from 2 to 7 p.m. So come for the pig roast. Come hang out and check it out. Massive pig roast. So come to the pig roast Friday, 2 to 7 p.m. at the Press Room Pub. Come see us at 5, and then you go right up to the Dome, and you'll be at the game at 7 o'clock. So Louisville at Syracuse, let's start there. Friday Night Lights inside of the Dome. Is there any thought that Louisville could get one over on the Cuse, or is Syracuse going to, dare I say it, maybe rise to the top 10 in the nation?
No, there's no way they trip up here. As I said earlier, Babers will have them ready to go. And it's all. I wish I was there for some of that. I would love to fly up and sit with you on those occasions. The Dome will be rocking. I don't look for the seniors to trip up at all. So it'll look Syracuse to just romp on this one.
Yeah, I got Syracuse in this one as well. And Papa Joe, anytime you want to come up here and sit with me inside of the Dome, it ain't no question. So you just let me know. So Ohio State, Michigan State. Any danger zone here for Ohio State who's trying to make a case?
Absolutely. Michigan State is a formidable opponent. We've seen in the past that Ohio State got tripped up and can get tripped up. So I don't know if Urban Meyers can get his team playing, but they have an extraordinary quarterback. But this game is not to be overlooked. This game could be a serious problem for Ohio State. And after saying that, I think I really do just barely like Michigan State a little bit in this game.
This is tough for me. I'm going to go with Ohio State, but I want Ohio State to push this thing with Michigan. I want there to be a case that either one of them can make college football playoff. So I'm going to lean a little bit on Ohio State in this one, but I know for a fact, and so do you, Papa Joe, if they lose this game, there's no chance in hell that they are going to be in the college football playoff. They're already out of favor somewhat, and there's no hope for them if this was going to end the way, if it's going to end on the side of Michigan State. So I'll give them a little bit, and I'll say Ohio State, but this is a danger zone to them. Mm-hmm. Next game up, we have South Carolina at Florida. What do we have for the South Carolina Gamecocks going up against the Florida Gators at home in Gainesville?
Well, we got Will Muschamp, who used to be the coach at Florida for 4 years, coming back to the Swamp as the coach of South Carolina. Talent-wise, both teams are about even. I think South Carolina has a better quarterback, and Florida's struggling right now with their quarterback. I got to go with my heart here. I say that Florida wins the game because they're at home, but this is, to me, it's a pick'em game. It's a toss-up game. Just because they're home, playing in the Swamp, I think gives Florida a slight advantage, and Florida really needs it. I mean, for them to be 7-3, maybe 8-3 before they play Florida State, It's big for them. So they really, really, really need this game.
I'm going to go with Florida in this game as well, and see what they can do from here. They do have the outside opportunity of being 9-3, which will be a tremendous season in Dan Mullen's first go at it. The next game that I want to throw at you here is Mississippi State over against Alabama. Roll Tide. So what do we think about this one?
This is potentially another trip-up game, but talent-wise, defensively, these teams are absolutely astonishing. Mississippi's defensive front and Alabama's defensive front are two of the best you're going to see in the country. They're going to have high draft choices, both teams on the Mississippi State and Alabama side. Obviously, talent-wise, Alabama should win easily, but it could be a really good defensive game. We talk about Tua not being able to play in the fourth quarter. Last week, Tua played the fourth quarter. So look this game, too. Look for Tua to play in this fourth quarter, even though Alabama is going to be favored and probably will win. But Tua is going to be playing in this fourth quarter because it's going to be closer than people think.
Tua took off for a run. One of my favorite names, I just like Hawaiian names. One of my favorite names in college football, Tua Tagovailoa. And so he ran for a touchdown this past week, and you see like the brace that he was wearing on his knee, and then he was limping afterward and just seemed to have some discomfort. Any worries about Tua moving forward? If you're an Alabama fan, do you feel like they should have concerns that, this season has the makings of something great, but, when you see him limp a little bit and already wearing a brace, what are your thoughts on Tua and that situation?
Well, Tua has two extraordinary traits. Number one, he's got a hell of an arm. Number two, he can think quick. And when you're running around in the backfields, you got gigantic guys chasing you all over the place, and you move around like Aaron Rodgers does with his feet moving around. The kid's got great instincts. Just those two traits alone will allow him to win. He doesn't need to run. I mean, he can if he needs to, but he doesn't need to sprint 30 yards down the field and maybe look to get killed by a Mississippi State defensive back or something. I think Coach Saban is probably going to say, to take care of the ball, you score 30 points quick, and then we'll take you out. So I don't see that being an issue. I'm
going with Bama in this one as well. The last game that I want to hit is, there's two games. So, no, there's three. I keep lying. So Auburn at Georgia. What do you think about this one? Georgia is, like I said, they're home for the last 3 weeks, but Auburn's ranked in the top 25 now, and they like to play spoiler to things. So what do you think about this game?
No, Auburn played a great game against Texas A&M last week. Great game. This is a pick'em game to me. Georgia's going to be heavily favored, but this is not a pushover game for Georgia. Auburn is a formidable opponent. They're in the SEC West. This is not easy. Georgia wins, but not by a lot.
I'm going to go with Georgia in this game as well. I'm going to agree with you, Papa Joe. I think Georgia's on a mission to try and surge back as they were in the college football playoff and bounce themselves out. Now they're trying to bounce back in. Florida State at Notre Dame. Florida State's been up, down, and around the corner, but Notre Dame is going to be without their starting quarterback. Book is not going to be back there to take that snap. So thoughts on this game? Any danger for Notre Dame?
Yeah, there is, just because Florida State is Florida State. I'm looking for this team to wake up. I'm really looking for this team to do something. They've got a couple of quarterbacks that they can flip-flop around. They're going to go up there with a purpose, and this is probably going to be a nationally televised game too. But Notre Dame should be the favorite, probably a heavy favorite. Florida State probably will play them close for a while, but Notre Dame's going to win the game. I just wish that Florida State would play a little bit better.
I would say that you'd like to see Florida State potentially play spoiler. Notre Dame can't lose a game because they're not in a conference and there's no conference championship. They have to win out, and they have to play Florida State. They have to play Syracuse at Yankee Stadium, and then they'll be at USC. So not an easy road for them. I'm going to give Notre Dame the slight edge, but again, they have to stay perfect. Clemson at Boston College is the final one here. BC is a good team, and if we look at the standings right now, Clemson is 1 in the Atlantic Division of the ACC at 6-0. BC is 2 at 4-1. Syracuse is 3 at 4-2. So BC is playing Clemson as that only team that's above them in the Atlantic Division. They have the defense. They have the offensive line. They have Anthony Brown at quarterback. They have A.J. Dillon, who the rest of the media and I agreed was the preseason ACC Player of the Year at running back. Thoughts on Clemson at Boston College? This game is at 8 p.m. on ABC this coming Saturday Eastern Time, and that is Saturday, November 10th. What do you think about Clemson, Boston College?
Boy, you're damn right that Boston College is a good team. They got it all. But they haven't faced anyone like Clemson. This is another game where it could be a possible trip up. But Dabo Sweeney, again, one of the psychologically gifted coaches, will have his team ready to play. I don't think that Boston College is going to face the defensive front that Clemson is going to offer. Boston College will move the ball probably, but I don't look for them to score a lot. I think Clemson wins the game rather easily, frankly.
I think that this is going to be an interesting game, and I think that this is going to be a tough game. I'm not going to be surprised if Boston College wins. I'm going to ultimately pick Clemson, but this could be a game. What concerns me is Clemson's retaliation on the rest of the world after that Syracuse game that they almost lost in Death Valley, because they haven't lost a game in Death Valley since 2016. So I look at that and say, okay, I think they're going to win. But Boston College, they've been knocking on the door of the Florida States and the Clemsons and maybe getting those wins. They're not an easy team to play. They make it interesting. They make it fun. So I'm going to pick Clemson, but I really, 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 really hope that when there's 2 minutes, 3 minutes left in this game, that it's still a game. With that being said, Papa Joe inside of Papa Joe's Picks, as always, every Thursday morning. Papa J, I love you to pieces. Thank you for being a part of the show, as always. And, I will be at Chick-fil-A for a live show today, so on behalf of you and Miss Mary, I will have some Chick-fil-A for you.
Good. Eat yourself into total insensibility. Don't worry about it.
That's my quote of the day. Eat yourself into total insensibility. I love it.
That's right.
That's a good quote. I appreciate it. I'll talk with you soon.
All right, man.
Take care. That coming from Papa J. Always, always awesome, and always appreciate him being a part of the show. So our picks are in, and we definitely went with each other on the majority of that. It is going to be time for fantasy football, the Fantasy Football Power Hour, which always turns into the Power Hours. We always go over, and that's proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub and the Pen and Trophy Center. Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com is going to be hanging out with me for Week 10 advice. Get your pen and pad ready. If you're playing fantasy football daily or you're in a league or whatever it may be, this is the time for you to go get your pen, go get your paper, not a pencil, because we believe in what we say. So it's pen time. So get it ready. Have it ready to go. We will be here for you to help you in Week 10 coming up in just a few moments. Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com and your guy right here, Dan Tortora. Happy Thursday morning, TGIT. It'll never be TGIF, no matter what ABC tries to do with Grey's Anatomy. It's never going to work. Who watches Grey's Anatomy? I'm kidding. What is it, 20 years old now? Isn't that insane? When ER would just never go, every year they would threat, ER is going to go off in year number 13. ER is going to not last for 17. And they would just keep going. They would keep going. And Grey's Anatomy is, I can't wrap my head around how many seasons Grey's Anatomy has had. Yet they somehow have been around forever. So the only thing that I can say about this world is if Grey's Anatomy can last 2 decades, why didn't you do it for Boy Meets World? Let's take a step aside here for a fast break. We'll be back with fantasy football and the NFL in just a moment.
This is a wake-up call fast break.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. He kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
For all of us that have always wanted our favorite restaurant to come to us, it's now a reality in Central New York with It's a Utica Thing, with Utica Pizza Company bringing their wonderful recipes that they've handed down through generations to you, to your event, to your business, to your home. It's a Utica Thing, proudly bringing Utica Pizza Company on wheels to your location. Call 315-738-8946. That's 315-738-8946 to bring Utica Pizza Company to your doorstep with It's a Utica Thing. Gear up with the real deal at Dry-Sig Apparel, creating what people are going to see and learn about you before they even meet you. Gear up for what you need for your team, business, or event. To look professional, look good, and feel good, outfit yourself at DrySigApparel.com. That's DREISSIG Apparel.com. The only place to gear up with the real deal. What's the universal language of a fan? Clapping your hands. With Fan Hands, the ultimate sports fan accessory, find your team color, slip them on, and start cheering on your favorite team with 11 different colors, always in stock on fanhands.com, where you'll find the ultimate sports fan accessory. Real fans wear Fan Hands.
Get Hilton quality service at the most affordable price at True by Hilton Camillus, located right next to Costco in Township 5. True by Hilton Camillus offers you their signature sport court where you can enjoy basketball, volleyball, pickleball, soccer, lacrosse, and more year-round in their indoor facility. For reservations and information, call 315-314-8676. That's 315-314-8676. True by Hilton Camillus. Hilton quality service at the most affordable price.
Utica Pizza Company spells family. Your family, my family, their family. The recipes that they have shared with each other throughout the years and have now been so gracious to share them with us. I can sit here and talk with you about all the great things that are on the menu, but we'd be here forever. So let me say this. Utica Pizza Company is second to none. And now you can bring it home with you and you can dine in the restaurant. UticaPizzaCompany.com will give you all the information that you need. And let me say, these Utica greens, they're the best. Utica Pizza Company. Call them and place your order at 315-214-3060. That's 315-214-3060. Families break bread at Utica Pizza Company.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, this being episode 203 of 2018 alone. I want to give a big shout out to Papa Joe. Much love, college football talk every Thursday to start off the broadcast. I appreciate love Papa Joe. Appreciate you for listening in and hope you continue to listen and know that you will right here on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com, TuneIn Radio, iTunes Podcast, Google Play, as well as the Apple app, Player FM, the RSS feed, and so much more. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it very much so. God bless.